Okay. All right, we are good to go.
Yeah, so today we're going to be playing Temple of the Kraken God, which is a third-party adventure for Mörk Borg, and the author of the Temple of the Kraken God, I believe. Let's have a look. Can't actually find, where is it? Let's look down the bottom. I think it was kind of a group effort, but I think trying to remember. I had it here, but anyway, yeah, I'll look that up. But yeah, I can only see the whole team. But it's a companion adventure for Mark Borg, and I mean, essentially the concept of Mark Borg is that it's kind of a grim metal role-playing game in a dying world. So it's got this. It's sort of. I mean, it describes itself as a spiked flail to the face. So it's essentially a kind of OSR style, fairly simple rules, dungeon delving game, but it's gritty. The characters are very sort of desperate and often quite unsavory in their own ways, but very fun. And it generally takes place in a world of kind of fading hope. So it's and also your characters are incredibly fragile, although you do have omens that can help to kind of turn the tide if you reach a particularly unpleasant role. But essentially, it's a game where it's good to be comfortable with swapping out your characters because they have a tendency, yeah, to not be particularly durable. In terms of the aims of the game, it's it is an adventure game, but in the sense of often having to go on an adventure, whether you want to or not, in the sense that it's usually some kind of errand of the doomed. In our previous one, we were all sentenced to death and forced to retrieve a magical item. In this one, you will be essentially sort of press ganged / paid by a king who of a city that's dying in a world that's dying in order to go out to sea for an omen of something that might suggest that the fate of the world could be something other than complete sort of ruin. So it's a sort of little tinge of optimism or hope in a sort of dying world, essentially. Um, and I'll describe that in a second. Yeah, the tone in this one, I mean, default Mörk Borg is very gritty and grimy and quite, often kind of unsavory. And the treasure you get is kind of moldy apples and nails and things like that. It's not a game that sort of gives you nice things, but this one's a bit more. I mean, it's got a nautical element, which is what we'll be doing today, a sort of sea voyage, but it also has like strange underwater sort of life and sort of that kind of rich and strange transformation of the ocean. So it's kind of a bit more strange than dirty, if that makes sense, as an adventure. But it's also got a lot of sort of uh, absurd and obscene sort of things in it. And in terms of subject matter, it mostly focuses on sort of bodily transformation of the kind of nautical kind. And also it focuses on sort of religion, on the religion of the Kraken god, who has a name that which I'll introduce just to so you know, actually, that the name of the Kraken god is essentially like the artist formerly known as Prince. The Kraken god has a unpronounceable name. So just so you know, essentially, when we say the Kraken god, this is the name of the Kraken god, and it's supposed to be, I think, unpronounceable. I just put it in the chat on Discord. Um, but basically, it's an alien, unknowable entity, and you're out to go and meet it and its followers. But it's quite yeah, it's a lot like, actually, Paul, it's a lot like Gift of the Sea in that way. I think there's a lot of thematic resonances with that. And the last thing I'll say, interestingly, is that it has the equivalent of a trophy ruin track for corruption, but rather than it being your track to the, you still have your hit points, you have this track of your sort of engagement with and exposure to the sort of warping magics of the Kraken god. And when it goes up, sort of strange and wonderful things happen. So, I mean, they're strange, but often you'll have some kind of transformation that will give you some kind of benefit, but also it kind of has that same effect as trophy of sort of drawing you further in. So it won't happen in this session. It only happens when you get to the island, but when you get there into the home of the Kraken god, then that starts to happen. So, and then it becomes a lot more like Gift of the Sea at that point. But yeah, so essentially to set our scene, you're just leaving Grift, which is a city to the far east of this sort of lost continent, doomed continent, in the sway of the omens of the basilisk that Viru that predicted the inevitable and completely predictable end of the world on a calendar that just has been methodically ticking down, and has everything that Viru has said has tediously come true, to the point where the king of Grift is known as Sigfum the Kind. And the reason he's kind is because he's preparing the citizenry for their end, and he's kindly shepherding them essentially towards their mass annihilation. And he has sort of a plan in place for that. But just as the end of days sort of starts to tick downwards, something new appears on the horizon, literally. So, Grift, there's never supposed to be anything further east than Grift, nothing but the endless sea. And that's been true for as long as people can remember. But from the highest of Grift's awful towers, Cloderic, who wanted to end his sorry life, spotted a black isle on the horizon. And royal telescopers pan their tools to measure and catalogue a discovery. Some crooked structure rises from the bluffs. What could it be, and what secrets does it hold? The rocky oddity, the abomination, dead sure salvation lure. And the proclamation goes out across the city and across the land. Let it be known that King Sigfum the Kind needs the brave and desperate. Steer a ship into the unknown, carry our hopes to alien shores, and restore our destiny. And many degenerates heed the call. They are to be squeezed into the belly of a ship and sent off to the unknown lands for death and glory. And before we meet our desperate, degenerate mariners, would-be mariners, there's a little sort of vignette, and then we'll go to the ship. So, a gull lands on volcanic stone. The hapless animal lays eyes on a wry structure, a temple of the inverted. The gull's body changes, shrinks, and transforms. The tide carries away feathers. A macerated king clings to his balcony to overlook the sea. His rotten eyeballs search for the speck of land his lackeys claim lies to the east. It promises deliverance. A pregnant wind blows into Grift. It is feeble, but quite enough to make the king buckle. He whimpers and returns inside, seeking his mulled wine and hearth. A captain whirls his compass across the map. Black lead marks the course. Avoid the eddies, follow the wind. It will be his last voyage. An archpriest sends another fell star into the sky. It bodes ill for all who observe it. His gills gurgle, his guts mumble. It is time for another feast. All praise be the Kraken god. So that's our setting, and essentially where we begin our scene, you find yourselves having been selected to cross the endless sea on a ship, a very old and very unseaworthy looking ship called the Blessed Lady of Zoldyck. And basically, I'd like to firstly start with just getting an introduction to all of our characters, maybe in the order your sheets are on the spreadsheet, and then we'll get a bit of your impressions of the ship and its crew, who, like you, have also signed on for, I think it's 200 silver you've all been promised for taking Cloderic, he of the tall tower, to the island as the ambassador to this strange new god, basically. So should we let's start with Sepsis.
Yes, I'm playing Sepsis. His pronouns are he, it. He's a fang deserter. He has his mouth rimmed with what looks like maybe dozens of sharp, jagged teeth that aren't necessarily his own. They probably came from other beasts that he's just kind of fastened onto his face. He has, for one hand, a rusty hook. He also carries with him a very stinking, grime-covered scimitar. And he also smells a lot like lard. And his disposition is fairly removed from the rest of the ship. He's got a very don't fuck with me kind of attitude. But otherwise, yeah, it's Sepsis.
And I believe next is Kresh.
Kresh is also a fang deserter. She is described as hauntingly beautiful, unnervingly clean, unlike Sepsis. So she does smell sweet, and then you get too close, and then you start seeing like the mouthful of sharp, prominent teeth, all hers, and they're just very sharp and profuse. And she has an obsession with small, sharp stones. She actually has a sackcloth filled with 38 of them, and she, in her past, was sentenced to death when she got into a drunken argument about the value of said sharp stones. And she sliced up the sons of the magistrates of the local court about it, and showed up to court gnawing on one of their arms. Somehow she got out of it. She doesn't quite remember. She was still drunk, but she came out of it okay, and she carries also another stinking sword. So this military shit ditch that she got it out of must be similar to the one that Sepsis went into.
And lastly, I believe we have Kratar.
Yeah. Kratar is a wretched royalty. I think I spelled that wrong. He is incredibly well groomed, only like the neck up. Everything below the neck is pretty destitute. He only has enough money to take care of his face. He has nails that are cracked and black, maybe about to fall off. Kind of drunk all the time. He was part of a caravan kingdom, so he's only comfortable on horses. So he attempts to ride his donkey as much as possible, even on the ship. And on the back of the donkey is his court jester, Poltroon, who followed him along, very colorful, very large hat. He has padded cloth armor. It's padded not just for safety, but also to give him a more muscular look than he actually does. And he also is carrying a sword, an incredibly fancy looking sword. It's like probably like a fencing kind of sword. And it never seems to get dirty, and he seems to speak to it at times.
So I think there's a couple of things that I'd like to sort of set the scene for. One of them is the ship, and one of them is the crew, but also just a little bit about what you saw in Grift before you got on this ship. So I'm just going to ask you all in the round a few sort of setup questions. And the first one is, so the ship the Blessed Lady of Zoldike is the last ship in Grift's navy. It's not been in the water for a while. They've got Captain Lambert, who's this kind of grizzled, extremely worn out old mariner with a perpetually smoking a pipe. Looks like his eyes are kind of cloudy, like he's got sort of cataracts. He's not, his best days are long behind him. But he's there to sail the ship, and there's an additional crew of kind of press-ganged, begrudging individuals, like working the sails and getting ready. It's essentially, yeah, fairly simple ship with a raised aft with a cabin for the captain. There's a sleeping area below with hammocks and stores, and then there's a big bolt thrower on the bow, like that takes 2 people to operate. You're not 100% sure if it's been oiled for a while, but it looks like it could be a useful weapon. But I guess I might ask everyone again, just in reverse order, like, what do you see that makes you concerned that this ship's not going to make the journey? Maybe starting with Kratar, then reverse.
Well, they couldn't find the most proper materials to patch up the sails. When you look at it, it looks very piecemeal, and no one is really sure what material was exactly used to form them.
And what does Kresh see?
Yeah, and on the side of the ship, there's wood there. The panels are uneven, and therefore they don't look like they would be very secure in a storm. And they were hastily applied when they pressed this Blessed Lady my ass. More like cursed, but it is what it is.
And lastly, what does Sepsis see aboard the Blessed Lady that causes him concern?
I don't know if it's concern, but it is noticeable that, kind of building off what Kresh saw, there was some very prominent damage to the hull of the ship that, for whatever reason, whoever repaired it thought that just slabs of old leather and pitch would be enough to secure it. Generally speaking, that hasn't worked out in the past with other expeditions that he's heard of. But hey, maybe this one might.
And I think, just as you're sort of cumbersomely wallowing out to sea, the endless sea, Grift has this very small, mean-looking harbor down at the sea level, and an enormous cliff, jagged cliff that it sort of perches precariously up on. The sea is just this kind of flat, dead, lifeless color, and you can see ahead of you, you're starting to approach this kind of belt that you know of essentially broken up ships and essentially a sea of corpses, because intermittently the king orders sacrifices from the top of the cliff. And you can see them now, people dressed in their sacrificial robes, rose petals floating down, foot plummeting from the cliffs, and gulls picking at them from below. And I guess what I'd like to know as well, and then we'll get to the crew, is, so the coming end times have liberated the people of Grift. They no longer cling to false morals and pretend civilization. So I might just go to Kresh this time. Kresh, when you were in Grift before the voyage began, you happened upon the ever-burning church, where the people of Grift keep a fire perpetually burning in the ruins of a church, which the citizenry tore down after exposing the clergy as the fraud that they are. And unnervingly, perpetually, the smell of roasting meat lies in the air, floating from the church. What did you make of this sight when you passed it on your way to the docks?
Well, she already had a snack on the way, and so she went to the ever-burning church and proceeded to light up the remains of the bone that she had in her hand, a little toasting of the marrow, and she's chewing on that as she approaches the harbor.
Did you take the opportunity to pray on the defiled altar of the church while you were paying your visit?
Kresh doesn't believe in any of it. I mean, if we're gonna be, I mean, she's actually surprised that the king is like holding on to being king. So she doesn't really believe in any of it. She's going along to this journey not because of the Kraken god, but because of the 200 silver.
Yeah, which is in other times would be a mean amount, but people's expectations are so low and their belief in the king so low that almost anything new kind of sparks interest. So, and I might ask Sepsis, another site, another prominent location is Nob's Outfitter, which is in one of Grift's graveyards. Nob sells pilfered goods from the crypts on the cheap. He offered you half price on some prime items if you would help him clear a wraith out of the crypt. What did you make of that? And did you help him or did you pass on?
I mean, I helped him in a way by liberating him of his intestines, and then I went on my merry way.
Yes, unfortunately, it turned out he was telling the truth, and that his access to inventory wasn't quite as easy as he'd made it out to be. But it felt good. So, lastly, Kratar, you paid a visit to Liuvaba and Sons Permanent Insurance, which is a glorified betting shop where they offer to conclude life insurances for third party, which basically means that they bet on when people are going to die. And they also essentially kill people to make them die sooner to affect the odds. Did you bet on yourself, or do you like a bet, a flutter?
I am not going to die in this future endeavor. So I previously had around 500 silver, and this is reason. And I bet he just put a amount. He wasn't sure that much. He just put a bag down, and bet that on himself to survive, I guess.
I think maybe they looked at you and said, "Oh, long odds indeed." But yes, I'm sure that absolutely will pay off, and indeed it would in fact pay off big time were you to be able to return and claim your winnings. Well, I'll tell you a little bit before the journey begins about the crew. So you haven't seen, you've heard that there are others that you haven't seen, but I mean, there's Captain Lambert kind of limping around, overseeing the adventure, and say his job is to deliver the intrepid explorers, as he calls you all, to the Black Isle. He kind of, you get the impression his kind of talk of heroism is almost like by rote, that he doesn't believe it, and he hasn't for a long time. But he just kind of trudges around, randomly mechanically sort of checking capstans and adjusting rope. You also see someone about, someone you've heard of, which is Cloderic himself, who's become sort of something of a minor celebrity recently, because he was the one that spotted the new land. And now he's the anointed diplomat of the king, who is supposed to bargain with whichever wondrous, authority can be found on this island. And you can just see him at the bow, just staring out to sea, kind of with this slightly manic gleam in his eyes. The only other people you can see at the moment on the deck is the mate, who's called Big Bertha, and she's this enormous, scarred, sort of street fighter woman who speaks like this, like, hello. She's got this kind of like very large kind of sort of jaw that looks like it's been broken several times. She'll tell you, she's basically gives off this odor of grog, even though you can't see any drink on her. But she'll tell you, as she sort of sets you your duties, that she used to have a pub, and she lost it when she bit the nose off a lecherous noble. But apparently the king let her come on this voyage instead of being hanged. So she seems quite upbeat about being on the voyage. And the last person you see is possibly the most unusual, is a man who he's dressed in leather with studs and straps and all kinds of accoutrements, and he's kind of dirty looking and keeps scratching himself, but he bounds around and he grabs your bags and takes them below, and he's very eager to please. And there's something vaguely kind of canine about him, and he keeps asking you for bones, and he says, Mort likes bones. You have bones? Bones? I do favors for bones. And he just keeps talking about bones. So basically, those are the people that you immediately encounter as you start to plow into this disgusting field of floating corpses and wood. So I guess I'd just like to start us off by finding out what do you do? Maybe if you could all tell me a little bit about how you sort of situate yourself aboard as the ship goes out to sea. Whoever'd like to start us off.
Well, I think that leading up there, Sepsis was maybe munching on the merchant's liver and just kind of impaled on his hook, but as he was munching on it, and as everyone's kind of boarding the ship, he sees Big Bertha, and there's this kind of like soft focus lens and like glittering that appears around her, and he's kind of frozen mid-bite. And then in this kind of boyish way, he just like snapped himself out of it and like scurries past her. Hello, Mom. And then he kind of finds a corner when this canine esque servant dog man comes up trying to grab his stuff. He just snaps at him with his kind of giant mouthpiece covered with jagged teeth, scaring him off. But then he'll just kind of find a corner and squat and not looking at anything in particular, just enjoying the savory bits that are still clinging to his hook.
I think maybe Mort kind of was sniffing at the bits that were on your hook and maybe hoping for a taste himself. So what are our other first impressions of the crew?
So when Kresh comes aboard, she is still munching on what's left of the bone and the toasted marrow, and she is accosted by Mort, and she she has her backpack on her back. She's got her sack of stones like over one shoulder, and Mort starts to try sniffing around while she's chewing on this bone. And while he's worrying about her with the bone part, he's trying to get her stuff. And she just proceeds to put the bone in her mouth like a toothpick, and then proceeds to whack him across with the sack of stones. You stay away. Not for you. And then proceeds to find a corner in the ship.
Yeah, you're down below decks. There's like a series of hammocks in the bow area where like they're kind of filthy and very cramped. But yeah, like the rest of the ship, you notice even more questionable maintenance decisions on the inside of the hull. But yeah, Mort sort of whimpers and goes off to he seems to spend half of his time trying to extract bones in exchange for tasks that you would presume he's supposed to do anyway as a crew member. And what about Kratar? What does Kratar make of all this?
So Kratar, once he's on the ship, first thing he kind of does is starts parading around on his donkey. He stops by the different sides of the ship because the donkey gets seasick, so it has to like vomit over the side of the ship sometimes. But for the most part, whenever he like makes a pass, he makes sure to talk to the captain. And every now and then he just goes like, so sir, I'm not saying it has to be a co-captain position, but I was previously royalty. So even just first or second mate would be a good starting point. And he like keeps walking, like going away with his donkey again. Because I wanted to keep in the headspace of the captain, just to know that there's someone there that's very reliable he could count on.
I think Captain Lambert probably just mutters what you think's occurred. He seems like not particularly focused on the people. He just keeps looking out to sea and looking at the corpse field ahead and just sort of muttering and cursing to himself. But I think Cloderick turns around from staring out and says, "Oh, a worthy mount. I wonder what the creatures on this Black Isle ride. Do you think they ride seahorses or giant squamous jellyfishes? Oh, I wonder what wonders there must be out there." And he kind of goes off on a bit of a monologue about potential things that there could be on the island and bores you until you have to extract yourself somehow from this. It's like a monologue, one of those, it's a sort of fevered monologue that it takes you a while to escape from.
Yeah, how he escapes is he just goes, Poltroon, you stay here, you listen to this, I will go away, all right? And Poltroon kind of just like, stay. The donkey has to vomit again. Give me 1 second. And then he like canters away.
I think Big Bertha like pats the donkey and says, "It's all right. We've all been there, mate." And you get this glimpse of her like whipping out a flask of some kind of horrible gut rotting grog and taking a swig. Basically, she seems to quite like the donkey. But Poltroon, Cloderick will just monologue at Poltroon for as long as you want him to. He doesn't seem to really care who it is he talks to. Now, one thing I'll ask you all about is maybe a sort of sight that you see as the sun begins to set in this field of corpses and driftwood. You can see things like that people have gone out from the shore from Grift, and you see someone cutting fingers off a corpse and pulling rings off, and you can see strange sea creatures sort of munching on limbs and bloated bodies. I might just ask everyone as the sun begins to set and you settle in, like what do you see in this field of corpses? A little vignette.
I think Sepsis sees just this horde of haggard merfolk who are taking some of the more attractive bloated corpses to be their sea husbands.
Kresh isn't of a mystical nature, or religious nature of any sort. However, as the sun starts to set, and she's looking towards this sea of corpses, it's almost like creating like some sort of shoal, but of bodies rather than like of sand. She actually sees insects like rising in clouds above the corpses. And just like birds, like where they have like the flock and they make different patterns in the air, like the clouds of insects are so thick that you can actually see like she sees patterns in their movement, in their forming of the clouds, and it almost seems to form multiple clouds of insects, almost seems to form some sort of sea creature's head rising above the sea of corpses.
I think as Kratar looks upon the sea, he sees this large, monstrous fish go towards a few of these corpses. And the fish doesn't have any teeth, but when it opens its mouth, what looks to be humanoid arms come out of it to grab the corpse and pull it into the gullet.
Oh, I like that. It's a nice image. And the sea smells of death. And perhaps the most disturbing thing about that is that you don't actually think it's the corpses that are the smell. You think that the sea just smells like that anyway, because it's, coming in on sort of stronger easterly breezes from further away. And in the distance, as the sun sets, you can see that jagged peak poking out. You don't, Captain Lambert's muttering, "Oh, the spaces are all wrong. I don't know how many days it'll take us to get there." But he seems to be like looking at his chart and puzzling and saying, oh, I can't see so well no more. As he sort of looks really closely at the map. And in the sky, you see a baleful red star rise from the island and streak across the sky. And I'll tell you that this is a dire omen, and that while the star is in the sky, after rest, a character must succeed on a DR12 presence test or gain no benefit from resting. So you'll see it in your dreams, you'll see it behind your eyelids. That star is a baleful omen that hangs above you as you cut through the corpses. Now, I think it basically after a while, it's, everyone's able to, the shifts change and you're able to get some rest. And that's when you discover this, that the star follows you into your dreams and follows you behind your eyes. Now, what I'd like to ask everyone is, in your dreams, as you sleep, how does the star feature? And where is there warmth in your dream? How do you feel a sort of warmth on your skin from something in your dream? So maybe we'll go start with Sepsis and go to Kresh and Kratar and see how your dreams are both warm and haunted by stars.
I think for Sepsis, the warmth comes from the dream is something of a flashback to his early life, his early childhood, when he and his, I guess his horde, his tribe, he was born at the base of a volcano that was constantly erupting. And so it's that recollection of not only tribal warmth in their own kind of perverted and horrible way, but also the warmth from the actual volcano. But one of the embers comes out of the volcano, but it's bigger and it starts to shoot across the sky and then lights up the sky, this kind of red color. And this crimson star just kind of keeps streaking across. And he sees himself as a child with these very ugly, nubby, normal looking teeth. He sees him just streaking, and his eyes are just transfixed on the star itself.
So Kresh dreams also of being younger and watching the different clutches hatch, essentially, in this tribe of fanged peoples, derive their warmth from being nestled in like a humid and steamy, muggy swamp. So while she is unnervingly clean, it's almost as if her people, her tribe, are able to be this way because they come from the muck and the mire. So they rise out of this, and then they come out very brilliant and very, very pure as much as they can. And then the teeth are naturally sharp and profuse, and prominent because of what they have to survive on as they grow as a clutch. And so she's remembering this, and it's like she's it's if it could be cozy, it's cozy, in this memory. And then the star features prominently because it is replacing the pale, cold moon that is usually around the swamp where she remembers it. And this disgusting red star is appearing in place of the moon that gives her and her people peace. This is actually, it shines of red, sinister light upon her memory, and that's what's running through her dream.
I think in Kratar's dream, we see him riding with his people from his caravan kingdom. He is riding a magnificent horse, and he is leading them towards a distance. It is warm to him because he can feel the reliance and trust that the people have in his like regality. But then the star appears in the sky, and the people he is with get mesmerized by it, and they begin to drift off towards its direction instead, leaving him all alone riding his horse.
And that's all very, very nice. So other than the sort of the fact that the star, you all feel that warmth, except the star doesn't seem to leave the dream. However, I'd like to know, maybe who is it that wakes up first and realizes the reason for the warmth is that all of the supplies are on fire?
I think Kresh, excuse me, I think Kresh wakes up first because the supplies are on fire, but she wakes up to the smell specifically of whomever was near it. I mean, however it happened. Like, she just smells like the reminiscent scent of like toasted marrow. Oh, that's kind of cool. And it's like, and then realizes it's like, oh, some people have been burned. Oh, some extra bones there. And it's everything's on fire.
And indeed, everything is on fire. And you can hear Mort whimpering and Bertha swearing, and basically it's rapidly growing. And I think essentially we're in a situation where we'd need a DR10 agility test to try and put it out in time. But I guess I'd like to know from everyone what your tactic is for trying to, because the water supply is down here as well. Towards the hammocks, there's a water butt, with a spoon, and there's other options. But if maybe everyone could tell me what their tactic is for trying to extinguish the flames.
Well, so for first things first, so one of my background things is that in battle, as I was once a soldier. A shard of metal is still embedded in Sepsis' chest, and every day it inches closer and closer. So I have to roll to see if it reaches my heart and kills me. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It is a 2% chance. Sadly, the shard remains where it is, does not inch closer with the 54. But otherwise, I don't think that Sepsis would immediately wake up, given the fact that he's raised at the base of a volcano and just feels kind of cozy. So I don't think he'd do anything until he's woken up.
Fair play. And what about Kresh? Because you've woken up first. What's your response?
So she's immediately going to grab her hammock and actually see if there's anything that she can envelop and try to beat the flames down. But before she does, or at least on the way to the fire, she's going to, if Sepsis is nearby, she's going to kick him with her boot. I mean, like, not aiming for anything in particular, just like closest thing. Just like, hey, get up, get up.
What? Why?
Fire.
So? Fire's good.
Not if it burns the ship.
Kind of just looks back nonchalantly and back up at Kresh. Meh.
Fine. Go back to sleep.
And he kind of scurries back into a little corner and kind of like a puppy dog starts to like kick his foot and tuck himself in.
No, she heads over to see if there's anything that's like small enough that she can kind of beat down with like covering it up.
I mean, I suspect there's some sort of oil skins and things like that. So I don't think, I mean, if you sort of drag it out, I mean, it'll all be including in the roll. I guess just before we do that, we should find out what Kratar's up to, and also maybe where's Poltroon? Is he still up on the deck, or just for context?
Poltroon has to be nearby Kratar because Kratar doesn't like to sleep hot, so he has to be fanned. So at this point in time, he's nearby. So what happens is, Kratar will just like kick Poltroon and just be like, "Hey, there's a fire here. Go find me some water so I can put it out. No, don't use the water yourself to put it out. Give it to me first, and then I will put it out."
I think the way that'll look is I reckon Kresh will have a go, and if Kresh fails, then you'll get the water in time to have a go from Poltroon. Yeah, I think you can hear the sort of crackling, and the heat is getting intolerable. And I think you think essentially Poltroon can probably get out and get the water, but you're going to get stuck pretty soon, and it's going to get bad. So yeah, should we try a agility, DR10 agility? With Kresh, and see how that goes.
We can try. This is a D20, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh! All right, 14.
Well, that's nicely done. Yeah. So maybe tell us how that looks when you beat it out, and then maybe we'll sort of also figure out how everyone else responds to you extinguishing the fire as well, and what happens with Poltroon's water. Like, how does that all end up?
Yeah, so again, she's grabbed her hammock. I mean, it is what it is, and then like sees the oil skins to and waxed stuff to be able to try to cover over the flames and then beat those down. And she is still carrying her sack because she doesn't want Mort or anybody else to get a hold of her sack of stones. And so she she throws the oilskins and the waxed tarps or whatever the heck it is, and then she starts using her sack of stones to beating out the flames, literally. And if anybody happens to be underneath the skins when she does that, oh well.
You I mean, I think at first, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything there, but after the fire is out, we'll hear what everyone else is doing. You will hear a voice, a muffled voice under the skin saying, "Why did you do that for? I was just trying to relax, man."
Sleeping in fire or setting the fire?
And then I think maybe Bertha will say, "Lighthouse, this was you again, wasn't it, you little bastard?" And pull off the skins. But I'd just like to get a little quick vignette from Sepsis and from Kratar about how this all looks to you.
Kratar. Or did you say Sepsis? Sorry. Or is it both of them?
No, both of you, just
okay.
a response to what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know how it all sort of plays out.
Kratar, Poltron did his best to come back as quick as possible. When he returns, Kratar looks incredibly irritated at him. Kratar is like, "You took much too long. The fire is already out. Can't you not see that? Someone else was able to do it before me. Take that water, pour it down your pants." Yes, you heard me. Down your pants, all of it. All of it? Yes. Yes. See? That's what you get. And yeah, he just keeps admonishing Poltron.
Yeah, I think as that's going on, and as the fire's out now, and everyone's sort of gathered around, looking at it, assessing the damage, Sepsis finally starts to stir awake, and with this big yawn, he looks around. He looks at Kresh. "What happened?"
I said it was fire. You went back to sleep.
"Wait, there's a fire?" And he looks up. He starts to kind of sit up. "Oh, I missed it."
Don't you smell? Toasted bones.
I think at that point Mort says, "Bones? Bones? Where are the bones? Ah, bones!"
If there's any crew members that ended up getting burnt, then...
I'm not sure there are. I'm not sure if there are any bones or not. But basically, Mort's now obsessed with like looking under the oil skin and trying to find them. And I think at that point, the captain and everyone else comes down the stairs, and Captain Lambert says, "Lighthouse, this was you again, wasn't it? You damn fool!" And from out from under your oil skin, essentially comes what looks like a stick with arms and legs with this really sarcastic face. You think it's a torch, basically, but essentially it's got this kind of matchstick head and then this really like wooden kind of angry like hangdog face, little sticky arms and legs, and stands up probably about 3 feet tall. And then its head just kind of bursts back into flames again. And you can see it's literally a torch with a face and limbs, and it says, "Why does everyone try and, extinguish me? I just wanted to, have a rest, I wanted to get away from the salt air. Do you know what it's like being a living magical torch when there's a sea breeze outside?" And I think everyone will say, You're out. This is the last time, Lighthouse. You've done this too many times. Look at all the supplies you've burnt. And they all start like shouting and swearing at him. And Mort will say, "Not again."
As everyone's shouting and swearing at the torch, Sepsis is just chuckling to himself. "Good torch."
Damn right, I am a good torch.
Shouldn't you be at the front of the boat, lighting the way? Not down here, endangering the rest of us.
Well, water is my nemesis, I was forged in the fires of revolution, obviously. I mean, how else would a magnificent individual such as myself exist? But obviously, water is my enemy. I'm on a ship not gonna go stand on the fucking deck. I mean, I need to be ready for when there's darkness that needs to be pushed aside. So I came down here, just relaxed, and fell asleep. Okay. And yeah, basically, I think the impression you get is that the captain told Lighthouse he was supposed to be up on the deck, but Lighthouse has decided he's not going to do that. And he kind of fell asleep and set fire to everything.
You're
Sepsis
obviously
kneels-
not magnificent enough if you can't fight the darkness of the sea.
Sepsis kneels down to eye level with Lighthouse and just like takes his chin up with his hook. I did good. Don't ever change.
Not changing for anyone, man. Fucking hey.
Listen, anyone gives you shit, you let me know. I got a hook right for 'em.
I think at that point, the conversation of the regular crew comes around to essentially saying that Lighthouse needs to be tried for his crimes. It also turns out that basically his other sin is that he's like an enormous buzzkill that just constantly tells and retells depressing stories. So he's essentially like, he sets things on fire and he's the most depressing member of the crew. So they basically all decide that they're gonna, when in the morning, a tribunal will decide his fate. But then the captain says, we're all tired of this debate. Each of you are going to have to become judge, defender, or prosecutor. We need some impartiality to this. And basically the crew all like, Mort says, yeah, judgment. And Bertha says, God be you, and swigs her little bottle and hides it again. So basically, who wants to be the judge? Who wants to be the prosecutor? And who wants to defend Lighthouse?
Oh, Sepsis is totally the defense. Yeah.
I mean, Kresh is gonna prosecute.
I'll be the judge. It's the one with the most power.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, you wanted
Yeah.
you wanted a position of responsibility on the
Of
ship.
course. Yeah.
And the captain's giving you your propers now. And Poltroon can be your legal clerk. So that's great.
I think Poltroon makes eye contact with the living torch. Both incredibly downers as people, one out of circumstance, one just generally so. And they just like make like a knowing glance at each other's situations.
All right. So we'll move on to the next day, but let's take a break now. Like, what do we reckon? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Like
5
how
minutes is
long?
good, yeah.
Just
5
Fine.
minutes, yeah.
Great.
Cool. All right.
Great.
Let's
See
do
you
that.
at 5.
So the day of the trial dawns, that you've moved through that sort of field of bloated corpses and wrecked ships and boats, but the fetid stench of the end of the sea continues to sort of surround you. After your meager rations and interrupted sleep, a trial is convened on the deck with the captain, and Berth is just sort of muttering, "Fucking Lighthouse, throw him overboard, put him out." And Mort's just thinking, "Where are the bones? Bones? Someone said bones," and just looks very forlorn. Cloderick occasionally looks over, but is basically still just staring out to sea obsessively. And the captain's just muttering about curses and ill fortune and smoking his pipe. So I'd like to hear opening arguments from the defense and the prosecution. And I think probably the best way to figure out who's the most convincing is just to do like a roll and like maybe a presence roll and just add your modifiers and see who gets the highest. And then we'll leave it up to Kratar to decide who's the most convincing.
That'll go well with my -3 to presence. Awesome.
But first,
I've played
let's
Trophy
hear.
Dark. You can have you don't have to have the skill. It's the roll.
Who draws
Prosecution go first?
Yes, the prosecution can begin.
So we are presenting as the crew present that this degenerate, and she gestures to Lighthouse, has knowingly, without forethought, been a danger, not just last night, but also consistently for previous voyages and sails. For this has been derelict of duty when he should be lighting the way on deck, but decides to go to sleep below deck, endangering the rest of the crew. And also being very heedless about the interest in his stories. If he is supposed to be lighting the way, literally and metaphorically, then he should also be a bright light. But accounts have said he is less than successful at this. And basically she turns to Lighthouse and goes, I've heard some of the stories.
I think Lighthouse says, "Oh, well, this reminds me of another story. You see, once I knew a
Clap
dog,
him
and
up!
then
Clap him
and
up!
then
No!
and then Bertha just like threatens to put him in a bucket of water and put him out, and he's like, oh, okay, I won't tell the story, fucking Philistines. And turns to Sepsis and says, you know what that's like.
And he just becomes this muttering mess in front of her. Yes,
What are you
ma'am, I
looking
do.
at?
Yes, I do.
And then I think Lighthouse will say, fuck man, these people, am I right?
Wait, who are you? And he's looking at Lighthouse.
I'm the one who apparently is not allowed to sleep anywhere comfortable just because I'm flammable.
Wait, you could make fire?
Well, I'm at least half fire, I'm a perpetually burning, living torch brought to life by magic in the fire's revolution. So yes, in fact.
Wow. Well, I guess I'm defense. So I'm sorry, who are you again? And he looks down at Lighthouse.
I'm the Bernie guy.
Oh, yeah. Listen, if any one of you fucks touches him, I will tear out each of your fucking livers. Except for yours, of course. And he looks at Bertha, and the soft focus appears around her again.
Loving you. Yeah. And then she sort of slaps her liver and says, oh, this liver's had a lot of punishment over the years, am I right?
I'm sure it has, Mum. I'm sure it has. But yeah, I will kill every one of you if you touch him, except especially you. And he points his hook up at Kratar.
You want to give me a bit of a D20 dice off with your modifiers, and we'll see how that goes.
Sure.
Me and Kresh.
Yeah.
I mean, me and
yeah.
Sepsis. Okay.
That's a 4 on the D20 minus 3, so that's a 1.
18.
But of course, noblesse oblige. Kratar, of course, is the judge and can decide what he thinks of all this, and as long as he's given correct legal counsel by Poltroon, of course.
Mm-hmm. This isn't really about what's for Kratar, like what's the right thing to do here. Really, this is about whether he fears Sepsis or Kresh more. Both of them have very sharp teeth, terrifying. And he looks at both of them and he nods to Poltroon. Poltroon gets up, lifts a small trumpet to his mouth, blows it a couple times and goes, the Honorable Ship Justice Kratar, first of his name, Lord of the Caravan Kingdom of Tavland, is about to make his ruling. Everyone rise as he does so. I assume no one does, or they already are standing. And he gets up. He says, "We are here today to decide the fate of." Looks at Lighthouse, then looks at Kresh. Wretched criminal. It's been too many times now that his negligence and downer personality has brought this crew down. Honestly, if it was me fully deciding his fate, and it is, I would say that he is guilty. He's 100% guilty. Yes.
And I think basically there's a chorus of booing and cheering. Like Bertha is really happy, and Mort is kind of whining because he doesn't like it. But basically, just as this kind of, and the captain is just kind of tutting and like muttering direly. But I think basically as this kind of reaches its crescendo, you start hearing like Cloderick up on the bow, just sort of raving, saying, the song, do you hear the beautiful song? It's the nymphs beneath the waves. They're singing to us, singing. And Bertha and the captain like, shut up, Cloderick. But you can hear something, this kind of piping noise, like faintly echoing across the waves from over the water. And it's getting louder and it's making your teeth hurt. What do you all do as this noise starts to disrupt the proceedings?
Well, Sepsis has dozens of these teeth in addition to his own teeth. So I imagine it's just like this overwhelming tingling sensation. It's like racking his skull. And can we just kill him instead? And he points up at I'm sorry, what was his name again? Chadwick?
Cloderick.
Cloderick. Yeah, he just looks up, he points his hook up at him and, can we just stab him instead? Just get rid of him.
He's not the one making the sound. And she's like kind of gnashing her teeth to try to like, get rid of that weird tingling and, paining sensation.
Kratar has, to avoid the sound, has begun to make his way below decks to kind of just like muffle the noise.
I think at this point, it's getting louder and louder, and you see Cloderick is basically now trying to throw himself off the boat and swim, and Bertha and Mort are trying to pull him back. And you're starting to think, it would be awful nice to jump into the cool, fragrant depths of the ocean and cavort there with some sea life, some nymphs. The song. And I might just ask each of you to say what kind of enticing delight does the song remind you of? Maybe we'll start again with Sepsis and then go to Kresh and then Kratar.
It sounds like the rumbling of a volcano, but peppered and colored with the screams of innocence that he and his marauders in the past have slaughtered at least the hundreds. It's a very soothing sound to him.
There's definitely a kind of grinding, piping quality to it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that's probably the bones that he's crushing, when he's he and his men are stepping on them, kind of dancing on them.
Yeah, she's hearing like, it started off as kind of crickets type sounds, like, sounds that you would hear in the nighttime in this humid, muggy swamp, and like just kind of like crickets chirping, croaks of frogs, and then like, she can start hearing like the grinding of bones because of munching on the marrow, of course, of opponents and well, victims, and anybody that's pretty much gotten in her way, and it's kind of comforting, and then it just gets louder, but she's also feeling it in her teeth now, and she's feeling it in her own bones, because it's like, it becomes very visceral. Just for say, she's gonna start like trying to tug at some of her cloth that she has on her shirt or jacket, and then just start trying to like wrap it around her ears.
I think to Kratar, the sound sounds like his mother's lullaby he used to hear as a child. And as he is stepping down to the bottom of the deck to avoid it, as he listens to it a bit more, he just goes, "Mommy? That's Mommy's voice," and starts like climbing back up.
So I think what we need from each of you is a DR12 presence test to see whether you, in fact, do want to jump overboard and find the source of the music. The beautiful, it's not a noise anymore, it's beautiful music, or whether you can resist. And I think I'm going to say Cloderick definitely wants to if nobody can stop him, but the others don't seem quite as compelled. So can I ask everyone to roll a D20 and test against 12 with their presence modifier?
Well, that's a natural 20 for me, but -3, so it's 17.
I got a 3.
I got an 11, of course, just outside. Damn.
So what was it again? So it was a 20 and an 11 and what, sorry?
It's a
3.
17 and a 3.
I see. Okay, so we got one failure.
I think you have 2, right?
I got a 3.
You got a 3, and what was the other one, sorry?
I got 11.
11, sorry, okay, yeah, so 2 failures. Well, maybe tell me what it looks like. Well, what it looks like as you try and clamber over the side, and maybe how Sepsis deals with seeing that happening. As Bertha and Mort struggle with Cloderick, the captain seems to have retreated into his cabin and locked the door.
So Kresh is trying to, get the cloth like over her ears or in her ears as fast as possible, but it's not working because, again, she's already started to feel the song, the enticement in her bones, and then so she starts to look over the side, and then just watching the splashing waves, and thinking, this smells so nice. This feels so good. It's almost like, actually trying to sink into it, trying to lean over the side is relieving the pressure of the song in her body, and so she's about ready to go over the side. Pretty damn close.
I think everyone just sees Kratar climb up from the steps, and he just begins to run towards the edge of the ship, going, "Mommy, Mommy dearest, I'm coming, Mommy." And as he runs, we see that Poltroon has like pulled his hat over his ears to prevent the singing, and Poltroon just goes, "No, sir, don't go. Oh gosh."
I think as all this is happening, Lighthouse seems completely unaffected, and he says, "Fuck that, I'm not going down there."
Sepsis will look over at Bertha. Should we save them?
And I think Bertha's tugging on Cloderick's shoulders and saying, I don't like this man. I don't like him one bit, but we need him. He's the ambassador. The captain said he has to survive. But frankly, I'd kill a lot of them if I could.
That's like poetry to me. Oh, I mean, oh yeah. And he'll kind of like just stomp and lurch his way forward towards the front of the ship. And if it's okay with you, Mads, he will take his hand and grab it at Kratar's shoulder, try to pull him back. But because he doesn't have a hand on his other arm, it's a hook. He uses his hook to try and pull Kresh back. That does do a d6 of damage. So if you don't want that, if you don't want me to do that, I won't do that.
I mean, it's actually kind of fitting, I guess.
Okay. All right.
You know.
So that would be that would be 5 points of damage.
Oh, is it? Oh, like you roll it, I don't roll it?
Yeah, I would roll it, I guess.
Okay. So it's 5.
Again, if you don't want me to do it, I won't do it. But
otherwise, I go over the side. I mean, so.
No, I mean, again, I could work around it. I don't want to like do PvP if it's not a thing, but.
I mean, it makes sense in the story, so I'm okay with it. You know?
So yeah, he'll launch it into her shoulder and then pull her back as well.
But you could reduce it.
Yeah.
You could use your armor to reduce it as well. I'd say it might bounce. You might not go all the way in if you have any armor.
I don't, and that's the funny part.
Oh well, that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
there's a reason why I have 10 hit points.
I think what we might do is test this as one roll, maybe like a strength roll, but then like jack up the DR a bit to maybe. Just thinking what it could be. Probably not. 12's too easy. I think this has got to be a 14 or a 16.
Okay.
Difficult or really hard? Do we think it's difficult or really hard?
Well, I mean, he's trying to do 2 people at once. I mean, like
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
You know, Kratar and Kresh. So.
Wait, are you saving Kratar? Because you don't have to.
No, he's totally trying to.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to,
but it's only because Bertha said so.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard, so I think we're gonna do 16 with strength if that sounds good.
All right.
That's on.
That's a 2. But a +1. For +1, it's 3. So.
Perfect.
Well, now the question is, do you still do the hooking? And I think with a roll that low, I think possibly rather than you stopping Kresh falling over, you hook into a bit of Kresh and you both go over, and then and then I think Kratar jumps off as well because you didn't manage to grab him.
Yeah, totally.
But you could. I think. Do we think the hook goes in, or do we think that you missed? I mean, I don't really. I think that's more of a poetic justice thing, so I'd rather leave it up to you.
I'll leave it up to Kresh.
Yeah.
I think you try, but what ends up happening is that you actually try to hook onto like a loose part of her outfit, whatever the hell, and it's actually like a strap, like a buckle or whatever. So therefore you get hooked. She goes over and takes you with her, and then you like
Perfect.
You either miss Kratar or you take Kratar with you. So it's like one big.
Yeah, maybe I'll just push him over too.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm gonna slip. It's like you're coming down with me.
I can totally see this in the movie. It's fine.
Yeah.
So as you splash into the water and do that thing where you sink and then float up again, you can see that beneath you is a sort of congregation of about 4. You wouldn't call them like they're a bit human, a bit crustacean, a bit fish. They have scales and they have fins and they have pipes, which you think is probably where the noise was coming from, and you can feel it thrumming through the water. They have sort of things that look like crustacean like protuberances. They're a kind of mix of human flesh and like they are utterly changed, and you can hear them piping and you can feel just that pressure in your ears, and they sort of start flitting around and swimming around you, trying to draw you further out. But they don't seem to want to go away. And basically, it's going to be combat, and I think you're basically going to want to have to like scare them off essentially, or kill them in order, or yeah, just to try and get them to go away, I think. So basically, I think we'll do the initiative D6. So I'm just gonna. All right, I'm just gonna get my Google dice roller up because it's better than this one. All right, so got a 3, so they're going to begin. But we did it last time, didn't we? Rolling individual initiative, agility.
Yeah, once you determine the order,
Yeah.
who goes first, then you determine the individual order.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So if everyone could just roll their agility plus D6 for me to see where everyone goes.
Well, that's a natural 1 for me, -2, so that is a -1 to my initiative.
I'm
Wait.
at 1.
Wait, so it's an agility roll, or how does
It's
it
a
work?
D6, and then you add your agility
Yeah,
modifier.
you would just add your
Oh.
modifier. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. I got a 1.
So did I.
Yeah.
Great.
So you both got a 1.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm tougher and stronger than him, I think.
That's true.
So...
100%.
I think we better just figure out who's going to go first out of the two of you. So let's just say Kresh, then
Yeah.
Kratar, just for the sake of
Yeah.
I'll just jack up Kratar to a 2, just so we've got.
Yeah.
So basically, there's about 4 of them, and they don't seem to be directly attacking you. They're just sort of flitting around, but then essentially, yeah, you can feel that pressure sort of building up in your ears, and essentially, because they're all like, only one of them is actually that close to you. The other ones, you can hear them piping and making noise in the water, and the water's just thrumming. You can see bubbles pouring out of the sort of pipes on their head. 3 of them you can't hear anything except for this vibrating, but the one next closest to you, it's so loud that you can almost feel like your eardrums feel like they're about to rupture, and you feel this sort of shrieking, piping noise, this intense pain in your eardrums, and you each take 1 damage. And then of course we can talk about, if you can think of any way of blocking up your ears, you might be able to inure yourself to that.
What happens when you hit 0 in this game?
You're broken if you reach 0, and if you go into negative, you're dead straight away. So.
All right, what does broken mean?
So roll a D4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, roll the D4.
I got a 4.
You're dead.
You're dead. Yeah.
Holy shit!
That was the goal.
Oh
Nice.
my god!
Well, I mean, I guess. Tell us what it looks like when your eardrums explode.
Yeah, the thing about Kratar is he gets closer and closer to the sound of his mom's lullaby, and he doesn't really realize what's happening, and he gets so close, and first his eardrums explode, and then you see his eyes pop out from his face from the pressure, and then just more secretions from his head. And then he just begins to float like a rag doll in the water. And you all hear cheering from the ship. Incredibly loud cheering, a trumpet noise, just celebration. And then we flash back to the life insurance thing. And you can see Paul Troon betting against Kratar.
Paul Troon's the rich man. Oh, it's amazing. So I think what happens now is you've got 1 round of basically trying to fight them off, Kresh and Sepsis, and the others are getting closer, but you think that they're distracted by trying to drag off Kratar's corpse and bring it with them as their new friend. So basically you've got a couple of choices to just like try and scare them off or you could just try, hope that they'll just take the corpse and drag it away and they won't trouble you anymore. What's your plan? Are you going to try and sort of get out and hope that they're distracted by their kill, or what would you like to do?
I mean, Kresh really wants to take a chomp out of one of these assholes.
What we do.
So if it's really close by, she will. If not, she's going to try to swim up to the surface.
Yeah, I think it's that one's probably about sort of 15 feet away or something. So I reckon you could probably get over there and try and bite one of them.
Yeah, that's what she wants to do.
I think we can reasonably do that. I think, just trying to think if a melee attack in this situation would be a higher DR because you're swimming.
Well, she's got 2 strength, so I mean, like, she's doing good so far.
I think it's reasonable to just say that sheer bloody mindedness means it's a DR 12 strength test to attack.
So I'm using strength, right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So that is a 15.
Okay. So that passes, and I think basically that just means that you do your damage, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, basically, she's swum, pissed off as hell, and she's grabbing one of their protuberances, and she is going to take a gigantic chomp of that out of them, or the one that she's got. So
roll your damage dice then, and we'll see if
3 for bite.
You bite off a huge chunk, and it tastes like fish and bile and all of the most disgusting things of the depths of the sea. But it doesn't seem happy by it, and it sort of starts swimming away. But I think the other two are sort of trying to take advantage of this situation to see if they can get in and grab Kratar's corpse while no one's looking. But I think one of them maybe is coming after you. But that gives Sepsis an opportunity to do his thing, whatever he wants to.
On a bite attack, by the way, you have a 1. If you roll a 1 or 2 on a d6, you get a free attack, James.
So what was that?
So when one of us makes a bite attack, if you roll a d6 and you get a 1 or 2, you get a free attack.
Nice.
Or a chance for a free attack. Yeah.
But in this case, I think was it a 3? Did we say a 4? Sorry. It was 3.
3
from me, but I mean, like, are you
saying?
Yes,
I think it's you that rolls.
Oh, okay. So basically, that since I grabbed onto the creature, then you get.
Yeah, you get a d6 to roll.
Oh,
it's like an attack of opportunity kind of thing.
I'm rolling the So I'm rolling the d6, and if I get a 1 or a 2, I get an attack. Okay, cool. I understand. I got a 5, so that's not. Yeah, we'll move on then.
So you said that it looks like they're trying to take Kratar away, but
Kratar... So one of them's just swum off because it's got a huge chunk bitten out of it, and there's this kind of black ichthyosis blood floating in the air mixed with the red of Kratar's exploded head. The other two seem to be attempting to sort of surreptitiously drag Kratar's body off as it sort of oozes a big cloud of blood, but the fourth one seems to have be trying to attack Kresh.
Well, I don't want Kratar's body to go to them because it looks delicious. So I'm going to try and pull it away, and if it's possible, attack the ones that are trying to pull his body away from us.
I think we could do 2 of those things at the same time. I mean, that's sort of, like a 2-action thing.
Yeah, I'll just sink his hook into Kratar's thigh and just kind of like start to pull him away. And then
and then you're going to try and attack with your other hand. Yeah, okay. Give us and because you're sort of rooted firmly in the body, it gives you some swing to attack with your weapon. So give us a DR 12.
So that's a total of 5.
So that means that instead you get an attack against you, right?
Yeah.
Is that how that works? Or is that
So
No,
I was swinging with my scimitar. I wasn't doing the bite attack.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just a miss then. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. All right, cool. Yeah, so you slash around and they sort of writhe out of the way, but you still feel like maybe the body's not moving anymore, but neither are you. But
Mhm.
what I think at this point you see in the water above, just as you sort of splash up for a second and gasp a breath of air, you can see that it looks like up on the deck, Mort and Bertha have got that big bolt thrower ready and they're turning it around. So I think basically, yeah, NPCs take unmodified rolls. So I think I'm just going to do a roll for them and see if they can hit any of them. No, they got a 7, so the bolt just like shoots through the water and disappears. But it looks like they're trying to help you now. So let's go back to the creatures. 2 of them aren't piping because they're too busy being attacked by sepsis. The one that's hurt seems to have actually just swum off, like leaving this sort of trail of blood. So there's 3 of them, but the other one's definitely close enough to both of you to let off another one of those shrill, like painful, shrill noises. And you will all, unless you can think of some way to block your ears, you're going to take another damage each.
Yeah, no. Sepsis is far too narrow-minded to do that. So yeah, he'll take damage.
But I think blood will start floating out of your ears at this point.
You said it's just 1 point of damage, or
1 point, yeah.
all right.
And
Go
ahead, sorry.
I think no problem. I'm just trying to think of what she's got. I think Kresh actually just like does have like a hood of some sort, and like what she's trying to do is like, she's trying to tie it really tightly against her head, like into her ears, so it's like really close up. But that's about as much as she can do in the moment, floating in the water.
I'll say that if you use your whole turn to do that, you can do it and you will be immune from the noise, but you just won't be able to do anything else, basically.
She's gonna protect her ears because, like, these idiots are like too damn close that she's gonna hear that shit again.
They have really spindly little arms. They don't seem to be. They're like sort of carrion feeders. They don't seem to be like very actually able to physically attack you.
Worst comes to worst, it's like if she has to, like, she'll kind of like, use a swimming kick to get away from them. But I mean, again, she's spending most of her time just trying to get the thing secured on her head, so she doesn't have bleeding ears.
Yeah, so I think basically at this point, we're going back to them. I know we've come around again, haven't we, to you? Because 2 of them won't do anything. One of them was doing doing the noise. So I think that means, based on our order, we're back to Kresh again, and you've done your sack. So we're back to Sepsis. What's Sepsis going to do?
Yeah, he's gonna go ahead and keep swinging away, trying to get Kratar's corpse back on the ship. So he's gonna use his scimitar. So for the scimitar, it says that it's a DR10 to attack and defense while I wield it. So is the DR12 just because it's water and it's?
Oh no. Yeah, I think in this case.
Okay.
I think if you say it's 10. I'd forgotten about that particular property. So if it's a 10, yeah, go for a 10 then.
All right. So it's gonna be an 11, finally.
Oh, nice. Well, that was a good time for it to be a 10. So yeah, roll your damage, which is a D6, I think you said.
It's a big old 1.
Yeah, and there's that thing about potentially giving them horrible sort of sepsis, isn't there? So
yeah, it's like a 1 in 6 chance.
Yeah, so I'll roll a D6 and see how that goes. I got a 6, so I think it's only a 1, isn't it? Yeah, so that doesn't poison them this time, but the blood's in the air, and I think by this time Bertha and Mort have cranked up the bolt thrower again, and they're ready to give it another go. So let's see how they do. They got an 18. So actually, this thing does D10 damage. So they're going to try and get one of the ones that's trying to drag the body away, I think. And they did 2 damage. So they basically, hit one of them, and I think it peels off. So now you've got the advantage, Sepsis. You seem to be actually being able to pull the corpse. But I think you're at a position now where if you can have another go, if you could hit the other one, they would probably let go. But they seem like opportunistic. So the one that's being cut has just kind of peeled off again, and the other one is still trying to shout. So I think the one that was pulling is going to keep pulling, but is starting to feel like it's not succeeding. But you probably need something to break the impasse. The one next to Kresh is, I think maybe you've probably floated away too far from Sepsis and from the body. So I think maybe the other one starts doing its cry again, but your bag seems to be muffling the sound sufficiently so you don't take any damage. But I think fortunately you're too far away for Sepsis to feel the pain of the noise. So I guess we're back then to Kresh, aren't we? So what's Kresh trying to do now with bag on head?
So now you're saying that I'm like while I was doing this, it's like I started to move too far away from.
Yeah, you've separated out because
Yeah.
the waves have pushed. So like the range of this cry is obviously limited in
Yeah.
radius.
Am I like closer to the boat? Because I mean, like she's gonna try to get to the boat if that's the case.
It would make sense to me that Sepsis would be slightly closer because Sepsis is pulling the body back. So you maybe are slightly further away.
So are they on the way? Let's put it that way, like to get back to the boat. So
Well, if Sepsis can deter this last one, then there'll basically be nothing stopping him from dragging Kratar's bleeding head exploded corpse up the side of the boat.
the reason I ask is because it's like she's either going to just do the roundabout and then just get back to the boat, or if they're on the way, she will try and help.
Help with the body.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you were to basically try and beat off attack the creature that's still trying to pull on the corpse, you could probably also try and discourage it from this tug of war that it's currently engaged in.
Yeah, so she'll do that then. I mean, like she'll just be like, you pissers or whatever the hell she would say, and then she would try to attack. This time with her scimitar. So.
All right. Well, give us then that's just an ordinary scimitar, not a.
It is a brown scimitar. It is a brown scimitar of Galgenbeck.
Oh, okay. So you've got All right. So is that a 12 then? Still a DR12?
It says DR10.
Yeah. So give us a DR10 then for the attack. Yeah.
All right. 11.
Nice. It's a good. Well, do your damage and we'll see how that goes.
Okay. That's damage 2.
Yeah, I think the last of them basically manages to rip a leg off Kratar and swim away with the leg, chewing on it, and I think you're all able to clamber up and drag the body back up again. And Morton, you can see that the reason they're not with restraining Cloderic is they've tied him up and thrown him on the deck. And the captain comes out of his cabin and says, "What the hell was that?" Just as you drag this head exploded corpse up, sort of weeping blood.
Let's slide it. I'm climb up with one arm and kind of pull myself up, and with the other arm throw Kratar's corpse onto the deck of the ship. And he's kind of standing over it. He looks at Poltroon.
Poltroon kicks it many, many times.
That's the when the revolution comes, the aristocrats are up against the wall.
He's making the meat tender, really, is what. Is what
It's
Sepsis
like one of
thinks.
those hammers, those
Yeah.
Tatar hammers. Yeah.
Yeah, he like rides across using the donkey over the body a couple times also.
When he's doing that, or like, Kresh will kind of like sidle over to Poltroon and go, "What are you doing with that afterwards? Are you going to use his bones for anything?"
No, I was going to have the horse eaten.
Can I have a femur?
Hey, you can have as many bones as you like. I just need
Bones.
some bones.
I think Mort starts pulling what's left of the femur out and going, bone.
Hey,
Bone.
mine.
Mort loves bones.
Mine.
My femur. My femur.
You do not want to get into that kind of fight with Kresh.
While this is going on, Sepsis is just sawing off an arm with his scimitar, and then just like walks away casually, just chewing on it like a turkey leg.
Yeah, I mean, Kresh is just like fighting over that femur. But then we'll like also like grab one of the the other arm or something like that.
I think Lighthouse is just sitting on the side saying, this reminds me of a story. And Bertha says, "Fuck that," and just throws water on him, and he goes out, and just kind of his arms and legs withdraw into him, and he just turns back into a torch. And she's like, "Been wanting to do that for a long time."
Would you like a piece, Mum? And Sepsis offers some of the arm to Bertha.
Well, seeming as the dried meat supplies have all been burnt by someone, I think it's time for a little bit of smoking out on the deck. Bit of curing, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Oh. So yeah, I think Bertha's decided it's because I imagine as an inn owner, she ran a very successful smokehouse. So maybe it's time for a bit of extra. And the captain just like gives this disgusted, wearied look and just turns around and totters off back into his cabin. And I think the day passes without any more trouble. But you can attempt to rest and regenerate your hit points. I have a strategic place for your new character to appear. So if we could just hold off and stick with Poltroon for now.
Perfect.
I know exactly where to sub in your new character. But basically, the smell of smoking meat fills the night, and the red star blazes in the sky. And I guess everyone, Sepsis and Kresh, you would normally you would recover D6 by if you eat and you rest. But I'll need you each to make a DR12 presence test for me to see if you gain any benefit from resting.
It's a 17.
13.
Actually, 17 minus 3 is 14. So 14.
Yeah, you're all good.
13.
Perfect. So each of you will recover overnight D6 hit points.
Rolled 4, but I only needed 1, I guess. I think.
Yeah, well, so you're back to full.
Okay.
And your ears, your hearing is not what it was. But then you always look at Kratar's slowly smoking barbecue corpse and think it could have been a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
And Mort has to be beaten off away from the smokehouse by Bertha repeatedly because he keeps trying to like steal bits. And yeah, I think I'll give us another break here, and then the night will come, and as the star blazes redly in the sky. Well, that went very Mörk Borg, didn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Great.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
It's so fun.
I was I was so impressed when I saw that you only had 1 hit point, and I was
Yeah.
thinking this is
I
the most
mean,
Mörk Borg thing
I was
ever.
just like, I was surprised that my philosopher with 2 hit points survived as long as she did, or he did. Holy crap. Oi. Okay.
That's
so
amazing.
funny.
5 or 10. What do you want for the
Mm.
break?
I think 5 is good.
Okay.
Let's go 5.
Okay.
Nothing wasted in this adventure.
Okay. Okie doke.
So, as the evening stretches on, and you have some of your newly found victuals, and you have a rest. Bertha comes down and asks you, "Are any of you medically inclined?"
I mean, I've done some light triage in the war, some amputations.
"Oh, that's good enough for me." And she swigs her bottle and puts it away and says, "All right, come on, you lot. The captain wants to see you." And she'll take you up the stairs to the deck, and then across the deck into the captain's cabin, which is a typical kind of window at the rear of the ship, and compasses and charts, and a sort of small hammock, a small sort of bunk bed sort of thing, and a table in the middle with equipment and charts on it. And the captain is sort of lying in his bed, and you notice that his eyes, which were already quite sort of cloudy, have gone completely milk white. And Bertha says, "Captain's not feeling so good." And the Captain Lambert says, "I stared at the star for too long. My sight is gone. Can you help me?" And he just sort of looks around. He's like, "Oh God, I'm blind."
Sepsis just looks at the other two and then just starts to draw his scimitar.
And he keeps going, "Dancing lights, dancing lights, dancing lights in my eyes, that baleful star in the sky."
Well, I guess I can amputate.
Amputate what? And then she kind of pulls you aside a little bit, Sepsis, and goes, "Amputate what? His eyes or his head?"
I don't think you can amputate eyes. You can amputate a head, though.
Is that what Bertha wants?
He looks back and has this kind of sparkling twinkling in his eye when he looks at her. I don't know what she wants.
Do you ask her, silly?
Maybe you could ask her, because
she's like, "Really?" And she pulls Bertha aside, in the other direction, and goes, "What exactly do you want Sepsis to do? He's got that big knife."
I don't know if you noticed, but none of us are actually sailors. We pretend. The captain's the only one that actually knows anything about ships. And if you can't see, we might be in that spot of trouble, you see. If you know what I mean. So we need him seeing again. We can't have him with his eyes all burnt out by that star. So do what you got to do. All right. And she slaps you meatily on the shoulder and rocks you around and says, "Oh no, you've got it in you. I believe in you." And she turns to Sepsis and says, "I believe in you too, son. You've got the makings of greatness in you."
thank you. Thank you. And he turns to Poltroon. No one's ever said they believe in me.
No one ever said they believed in me either.
You can do it. I know you can do it. I know. What's the plan? How are you going to make the captain see again?
Well, he doesn't really know how to make him see again. He just knows how to amputate. So right.
So basically, Kresh goes back over to Sepsis and goes, "The captain is the only one that can sail this boat. So unless you can do something about his eyes...
Well, I could, and then he looks over at the captain. What's wrong with him?
Stay with us. Watch my finger.
Oh,
Captain needs to sail ship.
right. Ship.
Captain needs to see.
Sea captain. Okay, well, he cracks his knuckles, but like because he has a hook, he just kind of like cracks them against the hook.
Nice.
Well, I could give it a go. Let me see here. I've got some lard. Maybe that'll work. He starts to pull out some lard from his bag. It has no jar or anything like that. It's just been sitting in his bag, and kind of like rubs it between his palms. Kind of greases up his hook. Well, let's try this out. And he goes and he's just gonna start like trying to give him like a head massage, but like around his face. Just kind of like rubs his eyelids, like kind of digs his fingers underneath his eyelids, kind of like trying to massage and move around his eyeballs to see if that works.
That's absolutely gonna work. I don't suppose Poltroon has any secret medical knowledge.
Let me think. Poltroon definitely has had to do first aid for his sir a couple times. And he's like traveled around. So he sees the lard be like rubbed on and just goes, "Hey." Pats you in the back. I think let me see if there's something else I can add to this right now.
Okay. Sure. And he takes his fingers out of his eyelids and kind of walks over and just wipes his hand on Kresh.
I think Poltroon doesn't, because he said he lost his eyes because he was looking at the star. So Poltroon would like to just try to like look at the symptoms of it to see, just to like understand what is happening, if it's like magic in nature or if it's kind of just like medical.
I think that'd be a presence check, and I think because you're an NPC, you could that could just be unmodified, I think, and
Gotcha.
we'll see how you go. There'll be a DR12 presence, 13, sorry, presence check.
13 presence, okay.
Does he get like a bonus because his eyes are now lubricated?
That's the only thing that makes it possible.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Got it.
10.
Tell me how it goes horribly wrong.
So you see Poltroon has is like thinking really hard about what to do next, and he is now carrying the blade of Kratar, and the blade kind of starts whispering to Poltroon, just like, "We are wasting time. You don't know what you're doing, don't you? Don't you, little jester boy? Either try something or just get out of the way. Here, use me. Just poke him, see if it does anything." And everyone just sees Poltroon start going for the sword in the scabbard, and then just puts it down and goes, I'm not really sure what to do next. I've only ever treated when my previous lord had pink eye from one of his romps. I don't know. This is much more than pink eye. And as he like walks back, his sword keeps admonishing him. It's like, you're just a jester. You're not a medical professional. You can't really do anything else, can you? And he just nods and just goes back to the group, waiting for someone else to try something.
Sounds like it's time to operate Sepsis.
Maybe if I slap him real hard. He just goes up and whacks him across the face.
Do you want to try doing like a DR13 presence check to see if your like weird approach to medicine has any results?
Absolutely. That's a 13. However, his presence is -3, so it's a 10.
I have a feeling that slap's not going to have a great effect. Do we think maybe it ruptures his eyes or something like that?
I mean, I could slap him again.
Yeah, just keep slapping him, see what'll happen. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, that's a 19 actually. So with a -3, that's a 16?
So,
you dislodge the cataract.
I think
it's like bad contact lenses.
Like, I mean, there's like one eye left, I think. Like maybe one eye comes out, and then
yeah,
one
I can
eye.
see with one eye still.
I think we'll split the difference and say that you cure one eye and you completely destroy the other eye, and you leave him like shouting and screaming as Bertha sort of puts a patch on him and bandages him up, and just as you like go down the steps from the cabin, you hear this voice say, "That reminds me of a story." And then Lighthouse.
Can I punch Lighthouse on the way down?
I think he'll go clattering across the deck, and so and then he says, "Everyone's a fucking bigot. They don't like me just because I'm a torch, just because I tell stories that they're not ready to understand."
Who are you again?
I'm the Bernie guy.
Oh, hey, yeah.
And how does Poltroon feel about his conversation with the sword?
It feels just like any other day for him, honestly. It's pretty used to this. And I think as they're like making way past Lighthouse, he's holding the sword in his hand, but then like it seems like his arm is moving out of its own accord. He's not really the one moving it, and like the arm moves the sword really close to the torch, and the sword just goes, "Hey, you're making us magical items look really bad. Come on, dude. Just lighten up a bit. You're a lighthouse. That's what you do. All right. I can't be the only one like spreading how cool, like good and magnificent we are. We have to all work as this like together. All right." And he like sheathes himself back into his own sheath.
And Lighthouse sort of burns a resentful blue and says, "We're not even on the same fucking level. I'm a sentient torch. You're a fucking sword with delusions of grandeur. I'm fucking Lighthouse."
I think Poltroon's hand goes to the scabbard without Poltroon really noticing, and then he lets go of the scabbard reluctantly, and just the sword just goes, "Go, Jester, go. We will train, and one day we will take down that stupid torch." And then they walk away.
So the night passes, the remainder of the night passes uneventfully. And the next day mostly is a sort of repetition of the smoking of the meat, the boredom of just staring out to sea, Cloderick constantly talking about all the wonders he can see on the island as it slowly grows bigger. Mort constantly talking about bones and trying to beg favors. Bertha and her sort of drinking and cursing, and the captain's up and about with his eye patch on, trying to get the ship on the level. And as you cut across the sort of dead, stinking sea, you notice that in front of you, a strange sort of black shape awaits. And it's this stone, like an obelisk, that's risen mysteriously just out of the water. It's just floating there. with like silver writing runes carved onto it. And it doesn't seem to be approaching you. It's just sitting there and just sort of waiting. And it seems like someone is clinging to its surface. And that's your next character, Paul.
Is this obelisk floating, or is it coming out of the water?
Yeah, it came out of the water, and now it's hovering about 5 feet above the ocean. And it's not entirely clear how this individual, who's also streaming wet, came to be attached to it.
This individual is incredibly gaunt and pale. You can see his bones underneath his skin. It's wet right now, but he has like a perfect inky black bowl haircut going around his head. And he seems to be wearing like a mishmash of clothing that is not his size. You can see it like draping over his like thin body. It's tough to tell how old he is because of how famished he looks, but he looks like he's just like holding on to this obelisk for dear life.
And I assume this is on your sheet.
Vrakh. It's going down the list.
Vrakh, yeah. Vrakh, what was the last thing you remember before you went beneath the waves and came back out again?
Vrakh remembers trying to stow away on one of the ships. And then he was hiding in this like pile of loose rags and trash, waiting for solitude there before he would start taking things. And then something happened to the ship. And then all he saw was water. All he felt was fear. Then he felt something incredibly hard and just started to hold on to it for dear life.
Did you hear the call of the Kraken god beneath the waves? Do you remember?
Yes, I think the call was what led him to this obelisk. He just flailed his arms towards that direction. And
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. And I think he's thankful for whatever this call was now.
I might start you then with one. This is the corruption thing I was telling you about in cats. I might start you with one corruption then with Vrakh, which basically means that whispers are vibrating in your bones. What do you think that they're saying to you, these ocean whispers from the depths?
I think they whisper to him of a place beneath the waves of like comfort and luxury, that if he can just find a way to go deep enough, he will be able to stay there and not have to grind and grub just to live day to day.
So I dropped the corruption thing into your character sheet just at the bottom of equipment because I couldn't think of anywhere better to put it.
But
but basically, essentially because of this promise that's sort of echoing through you, unfortunately at this point it's more of a distraction than a gift, but you feel like it could grow. And you have to subtract 1 from each roll of the die until you can hear what it says.
I think like right now it just feels like homesickness, it's like just very distracting.
Now I guess everyone else on the Blessed Lady, what are you going to do to get this wretched figure off? I mean, for a start, he's just come out of the waves, but secondly, he's covering the writing. Like, you're never going to be able to read what this thing says if you don't get him out the way. So what do you do, everyone else, Sepsis and Kresh?
I think Sepsis's initial reaction is just to, it's a fly on the windshield. It's got to come down. It has to get wiped off or something. So he's just going to go cock his head and look up at its direction, and then, without saying anything, just goes up to the ballista, starts to aim it.
It's one way of doing it.
Mhm.
What does Kresh think of this approach? It's very direct.
Extremely direct.
I
and
think-
just
Oh, Crash, sorry.
no,
And then you can, if you can tell us what you think when you see this battered old ship approaching you. But yeah, let's start with Kresh.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously this, like, the blessed lady ain't isn't blessed at all, so I really doubt that there's any serviceable lifeboats, if any, for this ship. So it's
Oh
not
no,
like,
there definitely is
no,
not.
no, I didn't think so. So, I mean, the ballista would be the easiest thing, other than
true.
trying to toss a rope and hoping Vrakh could
Mhm,
catch
mhm.
it, because there's, I mean, like, well, we don't have any nets or anything, do we?
You mean you have a few supplies up on the deck? You mean there were some things? I think that probably you might have had a net, but I think it probably caught on fire
Yeah,
when
Lighthouse's dick.
yeah, like a dick set it all on fire. I think you can get a rope and a grappling hook or something, or like something you can snag Vrakh with.
I mean, I also doubt that the Blessed Lady's fairly maneuverable. So, I mean, is she gonna stick her neck out for this guy? Not really. I mean, we could conceivably toss a grappling hook and a rope down as we pass and go, "You need to drop. Get the rope." That's the only other thing.
He will turn, look at the rope, and just instinctually fight or flight will just like jump at it and grab at it for his life.
I think that's going to be a DR 14 agility test for Vrakh then, I think, to grab onto that.
Okay.
I think it's a little better than being shot at.
Yeah. For stealthy, is that only for stealth things, or is it like all presence and agility tests?
Can you read it to me just so I know?
Gutterborn Scum stealthy, all presence and agility tests have their DR reduced by 2. Normal tests are DR 10 instead of DR 12.
No, you're a stealthy agility agile kind of person, so that we'll take that down to 12. Yeah.
Okay. So, right. 15.
Nice. So yeah, you can grab on and be dragged aboard streaming water, alive with but do you feel bereft to be taken from the thrumming deep into this horrible place of air and wood?
I think there's a moment where like just a general animal instinct of like being able to breathe again is taking over, so there's relief there. But then his mind, once that catches up, the one that's been affected by the call, everyone sees him like reactively like get up and then move to the edge of the ship and look down longingly at the water. And when Vrakh moves, he seems to move like he has too many joints when he moves.
Cartilaginous.
Yeah. And then he like turns around and looks at everyone. He like fixes his hair, makes the perfect bowl again. Thank you.
Why don't you let me shoot him?
I think you're
muted,
man.
If you shot him, you would be dead. How did you get there?
I don't really know. I was on another ship and I just ended up there. He like hops a loogie over the side of the ship real fast. You're muted again, Mads.
Jesus Christ.
Were you trying to get to the Black Island?
Is that where you all are gonna be going?
She looks over at Cataracts and
Evidently, yes.
And then
I
he
think-
Well, so where we're going?
I thought that's where we were going.
Yeah. I think Cloderick will turn and point to you and say, you, sir, you've seen it, haven't you? You've heard the call. You've seen the wonders that await us on the Isle. I can tell.
You
tell.
understand. You understand.
I think they can both take turns laughing disconcertingly for a bit.
Yes.
And Kresh will look at that Sepsis now and go,
I will apologize. Maybe you should have shot him.
He kind of just
I
looks at you and sniffs. You stink.
and she just looks back at you and says,
You stink. Blood.
Well, thank you.
I think Mort comes up and smells Vrakh and says, bones? Got any bones?
Too many bones.
Trade? Bone for task?
Talk to me later.
Always time to talk about bones. Yeah. And I think Bertha just like sighs and starts visibly drinking and not trying to hide it and just walks off disgusted. And the captain's too busy trying to see out of his remaining eye, which probably being slapped in did something, but it hasn't exactly got him back to 20 vision. So the stone is just kind of sitting there in place, and as you move forward it sort of turns and almost like it's watching the ship. It just keeps turning, and but it's covered with these lines of silver runes, like sinuous runes that remind you of seaweed and kelp and coral. It's got a message on it. If only you could spend some time reading it and decipher its meaning, if anyone's interested in giving it a look before you pass it by.
I
I don't think
mean,
Sepsis can read, so
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that Kresh is like all that interested. Although, I mean, maybe she calls over to Cataracts and goes,
Can you read that?
Is that sorry to Sepsis, or I didn't?
that was to Cataracts.
Oh, to Cloderick. Cloderick will say, only the beautiful lines of an unknown benefactor. Yes. And he stares at it and he says, I don't know what it says, but I know that we'll find out soon enough, and starts laughing. But no, I don't think he can actually read it.
I think what it says is ship, ocean, kelp, seamen, more kelp, and more seamen.
I would have thought you read it as eat all comers.
I mean, sure, maybe it says that too. I mean, the language is, the dialects and all that, they're very different from place to place. Well, you know that there's the squiggles and the lines there. You know, I don't think they even wrote that properly. I think, if you want my opinion, I think they don't know what they was talking about.
Whereas you do. All the time.
I mean, listen, I cured the captain, didn't I?
I'll give you that.
Yeah, you will.
So essentially, anyone who chooses to attempt to decipher the stone, if they can pass a DR16 presence test, they'll know what it means.
I'm just gonna try.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
just for
think so.
fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
Yeah,
fun.
go for it. If you're all staring at it and poring
Yeah,
over
like-
it.
That's a 12 total.
Ooh, 17.
Hmm.
That's a 9. So Vrakh is just like thanking it in gratitude.
Yeah, you're not trying to read it. You're just thanking it for carrying you safely
Mhm.
through the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, I think Kresh does in fact know what it says. And after a while, the words coalesce and they say, remember a world before time. Tremble, ascend, die. Darkness, the disc moves, remember. And you will immediately get better, which is the terminology for leveling up essentially in this game. And your options for that is that I'm just gonna just so you know, so you can do it. You could maybe do it after the session or whatever, or whenever you want.
Sure.
I'm just gonna paste the getting better options into Discord.
Okay.
Those are the things that you do when you get better.
Okay.
So yeah, you basically got to roll
So it's HP,
more
debris.
HP. You might find a cool thing, which I think we could say was in a crevice of the stone, perhaps that you could grab. Your abilities might go up,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's basically you can just test those things, and you'll improve.
Okay. All right. So just take a look at that for.
Yeah,
Okay.
you may as well just wait.
Sure.
We're
That's
sort
fine.
of in the last episode of the voyage. Now, I think that the day after the stone leaves you behind passes, everyone's trying to get a sense of Vrakh and who it actually is, but other than that, maybe you could sort of each narrate a strange anecdote of trying to figure out who Vrakh is for me, and then we'll get to the next evening and a new incident. So maybe let's start. Oh yeah, whoever wants to go first is fine.
Yeah, it's just to set it up. Vrakh is always like tucked into corners of the ship. You'll be like walking around, and it's like, is that a barrel? No, it's Vrakh, just like tucked in somewhere.
I think over the course of the rest of this voyage, Sepsis will keep being scared by Vrakh whenever he pops out of a barrel, and completely forget who he is every time. So every time is really a reintroduction to Vrakh. He's far too bony, though, unnervingly so. There isn't a lot of meat on him, so he's not really of much value to him right now. Maybe if he has some skill in battle, he will be, but currently he's just a weird guy who hangs out in barrels that somehow got on the ship. He doesn't remember why, though, or how.
Yeah, whenever you meet him, Vrakh is like, this is the 13th time you've met Vrakh. Ah.
Wait, what?
We have met 12 times previous to this.
Is 12 a big number or a small number?
It is bigger than 11, but smaller than 13.
Just kind of stares around the ship, perplexed by numbers. It's like the gif of the woman with the equations flashing over her. It's like, oh, right, yeah. Well, right. And he starts to drift away, completely confused by the interaction.
Right.
And I'm sure this has happened 11 more times, or 11 times previously. So,
and as he like drifts away, Vrakh kind of just like jams a finger really hard up his schnoz and just like comes back down into the barrel.
Yeah, Kresh is a little, well, she's kind of wary, but I mean, she's also fascinated because he is bone, and well, she does like marrow. But she's not sure because he's not like the normal type of being that she would, worry about gnawing on, and she's just kind of watching and seeing what he does. And the thing that disturbs her the most is like the sounds that he's making when he's hiding, either coming out of hiding or going into hiding. It's like maybe this is not the individual that she wants to be chewing on because of other things that are going on with him. She's still very unnervingly clean. I mean, so she's not gonna get necessarily close to Vrakh. And just watch, kind of just keeps an eye on him. But
I think as Vrakh hides from one spot to the other, he notices you watching him, and will just go, you want to numb me, don't you? Vrakh always knows when something wants to eat him.
Your flavor might be a bit off compared to what I normally gnaw on. So consider yourself safe for now.
Eat me or not, that is your decision. Nothing we do ever matters anyway. If you want a better flavor, and he takes out this like very fancy looking perfume, Vrakh can make him smell a little bit better, and he like spritzes himself a couple of times.
Do you want me to gnaw on you? You might not survive the experience.
It's not about survival. This world is just about what happens to you, bad or good.
she automatic. I mean, regardless of the scent that you have, I mean, just her reaction to that is just like, and so she's like,
and kind of just like ambles away.
She's like,
As Kresh walks away and as Vrakh goes back into his barrel, there's a moment where Sepsis just casually strolls by the deck and looks down and sees the globber on the deck beside the barrel, just kind of scoops it up with his hook and just starts to suck on it and keeps walking.
I think as the night continues, essentially the big drama of the night is that Bertha comes down drunk and kind of enraged and says, "That's it, one last fucking time. That Cloderick, he's not what, he's a fraud, he's annoying. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to kill him and throw him over. What do you say? Do you wanna help me teach old Clod to swim? Who's to say it isn't some elaborate trap, this whole thing? Who's to say he's not an agent of dark powers? I think we should teach him to swim, don't you think?" And Mort says, "More bones? Yes, Yes, more. You can have more bones if you help me, son. But of course, you know that actually you need him because he's the ambassador. And in fact, Bertha, in her more sober moments, has told you the same, but she seems to be intent on finally killing Cataracts. So what do you do to try and convince her to, or not, to stay her hand?
Kresh will just ask her the question. Like, even in her drunken state, she will ask Bertha the question.
So he is the ambassador for this mission, yes?
The king said so. King Sigfrid said he's the ambassador. Got to take him to the island, and he's got to treat with the creatures that live there.
Ambassador, more like Acido, right? And he elbows Bertha.
Oh,
Kresh will actually laugh at that.
That's exactly my thought, my friend. He is an acid.
Oh, shit. He pops out of the barrel like some sort of weird, like, haunted puppet. Oh,
That was funny.
Kresh is gonna look at Bertha and go,
It's the entreaty part that's the difficulty. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to be alive, does he? Maybe?
I tried to make it so he was alive, but I think I'm gonna have to make it so he's dead if it's all the same to you.
What happens if he turns up dead? Who becomes the ambassador then?
I haven't thought that far ahead. I don't know. I don't think anyone could be the ambassador. That'll be a problem, wouldn't it?
But
I think you could be the ambassador, Bertha. I think you could be anything you want. Put your mind to it.
Maybe there's a moment there. Do we want to roll to sit someone who wants to try and talk her out of it, because she's still getting paranoid about it? Does anyone want to do a presence test to try and talk her out of it?
I mean, Sepsis is very, very much on board with whatever she wants to do. So,
Vrakh has a plan for what to do if she continues her actions, but he won't necessarily be talking to her.
I mean, Kresh is of the opinion that Cataracts really hasn't shown any usefulness thus far. So it's like, easy come, easy go. I mean, Kratar went out that first day. So she's like,
So I think if no one does anything, Bertha will begin to walk away, and then kind of to himself whispering, it's like, no, he also has heard the call. He cannot be taken out now. And will just try to, like, he understands that Bertha's a little drunk right now. So maybe if, like, you know how you feel better after you vomit out all your alcohol? He'll just like to her, use his abominable globber to make her vomit out and like clear her head a little bit.
I think that's sufficiently disgusting. You don't need to roll for that. So I think that'll probably she'll be sort of vomiting all over the deck. And go ahead, sorry.
It says here that anyone who sees this has to make a DR10 roll, or they will also vomit, friends or foes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, Kresh is not accompanying you or anything like that. She's staying where she was.
What's the skill? What's the ability for that?
Anyone witnessing this, friend and foe, must make a toughness test to not also vomit. PCs test DR10 and enemies test DR12.
Dang, I got an 11.
Nice. Okay.
Well, I think there'll be what about Poltroon? Does Poltroon throw up?
He does throw up, yes.
Yeah, and I think probably we can just say that like there's a chorus of vomiting and heaving that distracts everyone from the task at hand, but it does save Cloderic from an unceremonious fate. And as the night passes and Mort grudgingly says, "No bones, no creep, why am I cleaning this?" And he's just like mopping up all of the vomit on the deck the next day. You can see the island is now very close, jutting up in front of you. And as you look at its surfaces, you see that it sort of shifts and warps in front of you. And there's something just sort of like very disturbing about looking at it. So I might ask everyone in the morning as they gaze on the island, which, yeah, like I said, is now very close. And there's these two sort of jagged arms forming a sort of rocky bay, sort of opening up in front of you. Can I ask everyone to make a DR13 presence check to me or be damaged by the sight?
That's a 6 minus 3, so that's a 3.
19.
Ooh.
What did you get? Sorry, Paul.
2.
2. Okay, so for those of you who got that, your corruption goes up 1 each of you. So Vrakh goes up to 2. And I think I'll just do one for Sepsis here. Now, essentially, now you're starting to hear the call of the island, the vibrating rock. Sepsis. You know, this kind of, it's like singing almost, and you can feel it in your many teeth. And you're also, until you can progress further on your journey, going to have -1 on rolls. However, Vrakh has moved beyond that now, and on corruption too, and he's now. Let me just find it. He now can hear the voices becoming clear, and their reasoning is becoming cogent, and you can understand the dogma. What do you hear from the vibrations of the Kraken god as you approach the island, Vrakh?
I think he understands that that place of comfort isn't really a place. It is a being. Like, being within its presence is what true comfort is. I think the dogma is that the world needs to be like washed away like the tide, and the seas have to rise for the world to be born anew.
And what does Sepsis hear, vaguely articulated but frustratingly unclear, vibrating off the island?
There's meat here, and lots of it, and it's just waiting for him to devour it all.
Moist, squirming meat in a shell, within valves, within succulent meat. Now, both of you, where just as you look at the black bulk of the island, feel shadows moving inside your eyeballs, taunting you. And you both feel this kind of urge that if you could pull out one of your eyes, the shadows would go away. Do either of you succumb to the urge to pluck out an eye?
Yeah. I'd say that just instinctively that Sepsis goes to rub his eyes, and he does so, but again, one hand is a hook, and so he tears out one of his eyes doing that.
A delicious morsel on the tip of your hook, just like all of the delicious flesh that you hope to consume fresh in the shell
There's a moment where he forgets that it's his eye and just kind of.
A morsel. And what if Vrakh?
I think he, instead of like plucking it out, will just like stick a finger down the back of his throat and just like rub that into his eye, so it just like rots away and it like darkens the shadows that are behind there. But his eye just looks like covered in like dark cataracts now.
But and I'll leave us for today, because as you enter this bay, you see like lights below you in the water rising, and there's these beautiful semicircular like patterns and undulations like glowing beneath you, and it rises and rises. And then all of a sudden, as the ship glides into this bay, this rocky bay, a series of enormous tendrils erupt from the water all around you and wrap lovingly around the ship. And you can see that below you is a jellyfish of titanic size that has reached out to embrace you and welcome you to the island. Unfortunately, its grip, you hear cracks as its grip seems to be tightening on the ship. And as we know, the ship is not overly well preserved, and it also seems very eager to caress each of you and drag you into its gelatinous embrace. So I'll leave it there, and we can do some stars and wishes, and then see where we go next time. So thank you.
Stars for well, again, as always, characters. Holy shit. Yeah, I mean, I only played this once before, and it was bazonkers then, and it's bazonkers now. So yeah, I mean, I can picture all of this stuff. I mean, it's just like over the top surreal weirdness in a fantasy setting that just like calls to visceral descriptions, and just it's grit, it's grimy. I don't, regardless of like having the sea wash it away, there's nothing clean about this sea at all. So yeah, I mean, this is a really cool scenario, and you know, I'm glad to do this, you know, as a continuous mini series or whatever. And just everybody's narrations of like, you know, when it gets really weird, and like, you know, what are they thinking about when stuff happens and affects us as omens, or just coming upon I can't even like think of like the way it's described, because it kind of reminds me a little bit of Trophy Dark, where you like, you know, get these evocative things when you reach each of the rings, and like each of the like kind of like the stopping the checkpoints or something as you get to your goal. And oh my god, this was amazing. Yeah, I would love to put this stuff on YouTube, but I'm not sure like how many content warnings I wouldn't have to put on this to be able to watch.
We very much played to our lines and veils, and the fact that in that case it didn't match them. So I think maybe it might not. I don't know. You could slap a lot of them on there. I suppose you could just slap it on the channel, but
yeah, or just like, you know, it's like, if you want to watch, just so you know, there's a lot of stuff in here that if you have squeamishness about it, then don't watch it. So and then just wish for more of this, like, you know, when we get to the next in the series. Excuse me. And I just thought that Kratar's wretched royalty end was hilarious. So yeah, just a key of like how bonkers this game is. So I thought it was wonderful in its humor. I mean, it didn't mean to be humorous, but it was. So oh my god. Anyway, yeah, wish for more of this, and you know, just to see like what happens, because that's what we're doing. We're playing to see what happens in this weird scenario. So
stars for everybody, for James for running this. got like a really great way of like language that really is kind of evocative, and it's really fun to be a part of. And your NPCs are always fun, so that's a good time. Stars for Mad. I like that Kresh has become sort of the straight person to everyone else's tomfoolery, because the rest of us are just buffoons. Which, I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way personally, but yeah, really into this, like, it's a very different Fang deserter that I'm used to seeing, and so I like that. And then Paul, I know this is your first time, and like both of your characters are hilarious, and your characterizations are fantastic, and like the way you use your background is fucking great. Yeah, just like the mental image of like Vrakh popping up out of barrels, and Sepsis forgetting every time. Just kind of like this weird, like Jack in the Box moment. It's always, yeah, I think it's hilarious to me. And Poltroon getting liberated, wondering how that's going to go. So yeah, my wish is just to keep playing and to see what the rest of this scenario is, because it's very interesting. It's very, like, the vibe is still there, but the progression feels different than a lot of other Mörk Borg modules that I've read. So yeah, just keep going. And then I just also want to see if, Sepsis and Bertha, I want to see if that happens. Romance on the high seas. Heaving bosoms.
Yeah. Star for that. I really like that character choice to be like, I'm really into this person on the ship. I love that so much. I also really like the forgetting things a lot. That was really funny to me. Star for Mads for always having such like interesting backgrounds for her characters, like the idea of just like coming from muck and being really clean all the time, and like the dichotomy of like being like seem to be the reasonable person but also like wanting to like gnaw on things is very like Mörk Borg. I want to give a star to the system because it's really easy just to come up with like weird characters, even if they're like randomized, like items, abilities. You're just like, then you can kind of get a sense for it. Star to James for all I really like your NPCs. And one of my absolute favorite things in role-playing games is when the biggest challenge is like the people's incompetence. It's like one of my favorite things to play with. And yeah, wishes for next time. I want to see how well Vrakh does in his combat to see if he makes it, just to see what happens. Because I've never actually like rolled combat rolls yet, technically. Just to see, that would be fun.
I didn't even look at your character sheet all that much, Paul, but I mean, do you have any character that has any hit points higher than 2?
I have 4. One of them has 4.
Oh my god.
The last one has 3.
It's one of my favorite things about this game is how absurdly low your hit points can
Yeah,
be. The game's just laughing at you, basically.
Yeah, I purposely chose the 1 hit point character to play first.
Yeah, no,
it's just so good.
That's another star. It's just like to the system and to Paul and James for leaning into it. It's just like, the fragility of everybody is so fun to play with. And like, I know lots of people are against like random deaths in RPGs. I think they have their place, and like this is a prime example of like a random death paying off because it's so stupid, but it's fun, and it's like, yeah, it creates some interesting conflict, like trying to fish his body out against weird sea creatures.
It turned the combat into a story rather than a fight, which is like I love. My star is just for all 3 of you for just like nailing it with having really good characters and just leaning into the options, and to Paul for so agilely switching characters, and Poltroon is amazing as well. Having your sort of sidekick get his revenge is amazing. I just think I like this setting. By the way, I should add, it's the author of it is Christian Eichhorn. That's what I couldn't remember before, but there's a big team of play testers and like it was a Kickstarter, so I can show you everyone who was involved. So that there's a bigger group involved. I mean, my wish is just to the island bit is just really, there's a lot in it, and it's rich, and it's really got a lot of very procedurally generated variables that I think you'll like. And it's not a, it's a setting that it's friendly in a way, but it's friendly in a corrupting way. It wants you to be at home, but not, it's not like necessarily trying to kill you. It just might, as a byproduct of being what it is. So I think you'll enjoy sort of, seeing what's in there basically.
Does it work a little bit like Trophy Dark, where like the corruption like acts as like ruin, like once you get like higher in corruption, then it like really sucks you in?
It's a bit more like those conditions that say it gets worse in Trophy Dark. It's a bit more like that.
Okay.
But at 5 you don't die. You basically fully realize your link to the Kraken god. So it's not like a Ruin 6, you're lost. It's that's your path on your road to Damascus, to the Kraken god moment, is said.
So we're like being like reverse enlightened. Is that what it is? Oh my god, this is like so crazy. I mean, it's weird and it's intense. I mean, like I really like exploring this kind of thing, because I mean, it's not your generic, hack and slash or stat based crap. I mean, this is stuff that just builds out a really interesting story, and for whatever reason, I can hear the synth music, I can see the oversaturated colors of being in these scenes, and it's just like, whoa. So it's very interesting.
Awesome. Well, we'll try and set up another slot and do the island, and I suspect this will be 3. There's a lot in that temple. I just very much, I don't know, because 3 hours is a while, but I mean, we'll try not to rush it too much, but I suspect this will be 3, even if the third one's relatively short. It depends on how it goes, but
I mean, I'm hoping that we can get Robin on this, because I mean, like, I know he really enjoys these this game and the scenarios. So I mean, like, would it make it go quicker or slower if you had 4 instead of 3
it's
of us?
always a bit slower the more people you have. It's like Trophy. I mean, but that's not a problem. I guess also, it's a game it's an adventure that gives you a present at the end. So no matter what happens, you'll have the option of a new character class for any future Mörk Borg we do that you can take away with you, which is fun.
Awesome.
Nice.
Wonderful. All right.
Well, thanks for playing, everyone, and
thank you.
I bid you all a very good day.
Yes.
All right.
You
We'll
too.
see
for running it.
soon.
See
Bye,
you next
everyone.
time.
Bye.
Bye.